I had always thought I knew my life. The quiet cul-de-sac, the same neighbors, the same school, the same little routines I barely noticed anymore. But one Thursday evening, everything I thought was safe shattered. I was upstairs, sprawled on my bed, scrolling through my phone, when I heard the front door creak. Not the usual click of my mom's keys or the soft shuffle of my dad coming in from work, but a sound, foreign. My heart jumped. "Hello?" I called, trying to keep my voice casual. No answer. Creeping down the stairs, I froze. There, in our living room, stood a man I had never seen before. Tall, dark-haired, wearing a hoodie and jeans, and his expression, calm but unreadable, made my stomach twist. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice quivering more than I wanted. He looked at me, eyes piercing. "You must be Emily," he said, as if knowing my name made him entitled to be in my house. "How do you know my name?" I demanded, taking a cautious step backward. He smiled faintly. "Let's just say, your family and I have some unfinished business." My parents weren't home. Not a soul in the house besides him and me. Panic surged. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, but my fingers froze. The signal on the staircase flickered. The line had no service. "What do you want?" I whispered, hoping my voice sounded braver than I felt. He stepped closer, calm, almost too calm. "I'm not here to hurt you. At least, not unless someone tries to stop me. I just need to speak with your parents. Tell them something important." I glanced around. The door to the kitchen was ajar. I could bolt, but where would I go? The streets were empty, and the man's eyes followed my every movement like he could predict it. "Tell me why you're here, or I'm calling the police as soon as I get a signal," I said, my voice firmer now. He chuckled softly. "Emily, you have no idea. And if I tell you now, you might never forgive me." My mind raced. Who was he? Why did he know my name? Why did my gut tell me I had seen him before, in a dream maybe, or a photograph I'd never been shown? And then it hit me. The box in the attic. I had found it months ago, tucked in the farthest corner, full of old letters, photographs, and papers my parents never mentioned. What if he had something to do with those? "I'm not letting you stay here," I said, slowly edging toward the stairs. He didn't move. "You can't stop this. Not anymore. The truth, Emily, it's coming. And it's bigger than your little world. Bigger than your parents ever told you." Something inside me shifted. Fear, yes, but also determination. Whoever he was, whatever truth he carried, I wasn't going to hide from it. Not anymore. I gripped the banister, bracing myself. "Fine. Then tell me. Start talking. Because I can't walk away, not now." The man smiled, a sharp, almost predatory smile, and began to speak. And as the words left his lips, my entire life, my sense of safety, of family, of identity, crumbled into something unrecognizable. The man's voice was calm, measured, almost hypnotic. "Emily, you're not really who you think you are." I froze mid-step. My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" He reached into his pocket slowly and pulled out a photograph. My photograph. But not the usual one of me in a school picture or family portrait. This one was older, faded at the edges, and showed me as a toddler in someone else's arms. A man and a woman smiling at the camera. A house in the background I didn't recognize. "That's me," I stammered, my fingers trembling as I touched the photo. "Where did you get this?" "From people who thought you should know the truth," he said. "About your parents, and about why you're here, in this house." I felt my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. "You mean, my parents lied to me?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. "They didn't lie to protect themselves. They lied to protect you. But some truths can't stay hidden forever." I wanted to scream, to call the police, to do anything but stand there and listen. But there was something in his tone, a weight that made it impossible to move, impossible to leave. "Who are you?" I asked, finally. "And why do you know all this?" "My name is Daniel," he said. "I was close to your real family. And now, it's time you knew who they really were, and why you were taken from them." The words felt like fire in my chest. Taken? My mind raced, images of my parents hugging me as a baby, tucking me in at night, laughing at my childhood jokes. Taken from them? How could that be? Daniel stepped closer, holding the photograph like it was a lifeline. "Emily, your parents, your real parents, were killed. Someone wanted them gone. And you were hidden. That's why your birth certificate doesn't match, why there's a box in the attic your parents never wanted you to open." I shook my head, backing toward the stairs. "No, this can't be happening. That's impossible. Daniel didn't flinch. I know it's a lot. But you need to hear this, because the people who did this, they're still out there. Watching, waiting, and they'll stop at nothing if you don't know who you really are. I sank onto the bottom step, gripping the railing. My world was spinning. My parents, the people I trusted most, the only people who had ever been my safe zone, they had kept me from the truth. Why now? I whispered. Why tell me now? Because time is running out, Daniel said. And because you're ready, whether you know it or not. There's more in your attic, Emily. Letters, photographs, things your parents hoped you'd never find. You have to see them. You have to understand who you are, before it's too late. I swallowed hard, looking back toward the kitchen, imagining my parents coming home, finding Daniel, finding me frozen on the stairs. They'll be angry, I said. They'll hate you for telling me. Daniel shook his head. No, they'll just be scared. They've done everything they could to keep you safe. But hiding the truth only delays it. You're stronger than they think. My hands trembled. I wanted to run, but curiosity, fear, and the need to know everything chained me in place. Slowly, carefully, I stood. Show me, I said. Show me everything. Daniel nodded, his expression serious. I warned you, once you see the truth, nothing can be the same again. And with that, he reached for the attic ladder. Something inside me snapped. The part of me that had always followed rules, stayed safe, obeyed. I climbed behind him, each step taking me closer to secrets my parents had buried for years, closer to a past I had never imagined, and closer to danger I couldn't yet see. The attic ladder groaned under our weight, the wooden steps rough against my bare feet. Dust swirled in the sunlight streaming through a small window, giving everything a hazy, almost dreamlike quality. I had been up here before, sneaking a peek at the old boxes my parents kept, but today it felt different, ominous, charged, like the air itself was holding its breath. Daniel moved carefully toward a large, unmarked trunk at the back of the attic. He knelt, fingers brushing over the faded leather straps before lifting the lid. The hinges creaked, releasing a musty scent of paper and cloth, old enough to make me cough. Inside were folders, envelopes, and photographs, each labeled in neat handwriting I didn't recognize. This is everything they tried to hide, Daniel said. Your life before this house, before the people who raised you, it's all here. I stepped closer, heart thudding. My fingers hovered over a stack of photographs. Each picture seemed heavier than the last, images of a house I'd never seen, a little girl with hair like mine, smiling at a man and woman who weren't my parents. There were letters, folded and yellowed, addressed to my name, a name I didn't know I had. Emily Whitman, Daniel said softly, watching me. That's who you really are. And these people. He gestured to the photographs, his expression darkening. They're your parents. And someone took them from you. I couldn't speak. My mind spun, trying to hold on to something solid in a world that had just crumbled. Why would they do that? I finally managed. Daniel shook his head. Because your parents stumbled onto something dangerous. Something powerful. They were silenced. And you were hidden so you could live. I sank onto the floor, clutching a photograph of the little girl with her parents. All this time, I thought my life was normal. I thought I knew who I was. Normal? Daniel's voice was gentle but firm. There is no normal here. Not anymore. You have a past, Emily. And it's waiting for you to claim it. But be careful. The people who wanted your family gone, they're still watching. A chill ran down my spine. Watching? How do you know? Daniel's eyes were steady, serious. Because you've already been warned. You felt it, didn't you? The notes, the shadows, the feeling of eyes on you? I nodded. Every word felt like a blow. Someone was out there, tracking me, keeping the past buried until now. I don't understand, I said, tears blurring my vision. If they took my parents, why leave me alive? Because you were their only link to the truth, Daniel said. And because they underestimated you. They thought you'd never uncover it. But here you are, ready or not. I looked down at the letters and photographs, my hands trembling. Each one was a piece of a puzzle that had been stolen from me. A map of a life I had never known. You have to be careful, Daniel warned again. Every choice from this moment on carries weight. They don't want you to know. They will try to stop you. But if you turn away, you'll never find the answers you deserve. I took a deep breath, letting the reality settle like a stone in my chest. Fear was there, yes, but also something fiercer, determination. I can't turn away, I said. I need to know everything. Daniel nodded, as if he had expected nothing less. Good. Then we start with the letters. They tell a story no one wants you to hear, but it's the only way to understand who you really are, and what your parents fought to protect. I picked up the first envelope, its edges frayed, the handwriting almost elegant. As I unfolded it, my hands shook. The words inside were simple, yet heavy with a weight I could feel in my chest. If anything happens to us, protect her. She is the key. My breath caught. The key. Me. And in that moment, I realized the world I had known, my friends, my home, my parents, was gone. My real life was waiting in those letters, and whoever had tried to erase it from existence would do anything to keep it hidden. I swallowed, set my jaw, and looked at Daniel. Then we don't stop. Not now. Not ever. He nodded, the corners of his mouth tight with resolve. Not ever. But Emily, we need to be smart. Danger isn't just outside the door, it's closer than you think. I glanced at the small window, half expecting to see eyes peering in. Something told me he was right. And I had no choice but to step forward into a past I didn't recognize, into secrets that could destroy everything, or finally set me free. The letters were only the beginning. Each envelope revealed fragments of a life I never knew, a story of my real parents, brave, intelligent, and caught in something far bigger than any child should ever understand. I read each line slowly, letting the words sink in. Emily, if you are reading this, it means we failed to protect ourselves. You are stronger than you know. Trust no one outside the circle of our closest allies. Keep our secret safe. One day, you will understand the truth, and know what must be done. I clutched the letter so tightly my knuckles whitened. A circle of allies? What did that even mean? And what truth was waiting for me? Daniel crouched beside me, his face serious. Your parents were part of something sensitive. They discovered information that powerful people wanted buried. They tried to expose it. And when they were silenced, you became the only living link to their work. I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. So, they took my parents, and now these people are after me too? Yes, Daniel said simply. And they've already started. That's why I was sent, to prepare you, to help you gather evidence, to make sure you're not caught unaware. I nodded slowly, fear tightening my throat but a stubborn fire burning beneath it. Where do we start? From the beginning, Daniel said, handing me a small envelope with my name on it. Inside was a photograph of my parents standing in front of a house I didn't recognize, holding a baby me. Written on the back was a note. Do not trust the people around you. They are not who they appear to be. I shivered. My parents had trusted someone, and that someone had betrayed them, or maybe more than one. The world I had known, the friends, the neighbors, the quiet life, was built on lies. Daniel stood, his face hardening. We need to find your parents' closest allies. If they're still alive, they can help us. If not, we use the clues they left behind to trace who's responsible. I swallowed and rose to my feet, clutching the photograph like a lifeline. How do we find them? By following the breadcrumbs your parents left, he said. Every letter, every photograph, every document, they were careful. They hid things in plain sight. People who knew them will remember. People who wanted them silenced will slip up. We spent the next few hours going through every box, every envelope, every photograph. The attic, once just a dusty storage space, became a map of secrets. Names, addresses, dates, all carefully recorded by my parents. There were warnings, too, cryptic notes about people to avoid, strange symbols, and a few keys tied to nothing I could recognize. This is a lot, I whispered, exhaustion creeping in. How could they hide all this and still live their lives? Daniel shook his head. They didn't. They were always looking over their shoulders. They feared for you, but also for themselves. That's why they left instructions. That's why they protected you the way they did. I stared at the stacks of letters, realizing the weight of responsibility I'd inherited. My parents had been taken, silenced, but the story was far from over. And now, somehow, it was my turn. A sudden sound snapped me out of my thoughts, a creak from downstairs. My heart jumped. Daniel froze. They know you found this, he whispered. I nodded, swallowing hard. Then we need to be careful. What do we do? Daniel's eyes scanned the attic, landing on a small window. First, we lock this space. Then, we gather what we can carry. Evidence, documents, photographs, anything that can't be destroyed. And we prepare. Because tonight, they might come for you. Fear raced through me, but it was tempered with resolve. My life had been a lie, my parents stolen from me, and someone powerful wanted to keep it that way. I looked at Daniel, ready to face whatever came next. Then let's get ready. I'm not running anymore. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, and I could almost hear the faint whisper of danger approaching. The past had finally caught up with me, and there was no turning back. The first real threat arrived just as dusk settled over our quiet street. I was in my room, the attic's discoveries pressed close to my chest, when I heard a soft knock at the front door. Soft, almost hesitant but deliberate. My pulse spiked. "Emily?" a voice called through the screen. My name, familiar, yet it carried a strange cadence, too calm, too measured. I froze. "Who is it?" Daniel's voice came from behind me. He had been standing guard while I processed the letters. "I don't know," I whispered. "It doesn't sound like anyone I know." Daniel motioned for me to stay back. "Do not open the door." Not for anyone. But curiosity and dread collided. I tiptoed to the window, peering through the blinds. There was a man, roughly my father's age, wearing a worn jacket and carrying a briefcase. His expression was careful, almost anxious, like he had rehearsed his approach. Daniel's hand on my shoulder grounded me. "Do not engage. He might be an ally, or a threat. We don't know yet." The man knocked again, a little harder this time. "I'm here to help," he called. "I knew your parents. I'm a friend. Please, let me in." I glanced at Daniel, his jaw tight, eyes sharp. "How do we know we can trust him?" I asked, voice shaking. Daniel's gaze never left the door. "We don't, but if he is who he claims, he has information your parents left behind, information you need." Taking a deep breath, I opened the door just a crack. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to sound steady. The man smiled gently, eyes kind but tired. "My name is Robert Langley. I worked with your parents a long time ago. They trusted me. I was supposed to help protect you, too." Daniel stepped forward, his presence a warning. "How do we know you're not part of the people who took her parents?" Robert raised his hand slowly. "I've been watching from a distance, making sure Emily stayed safe. I only got close because things are escalating. The people who wanted her parents gone? They're still watching. And now, they know Emily has discovered the letters. You don't have time. We need to move, get her somewhere safe, and find the people who can explain everything." I studied him, reading for lies, for hesitations, for the truth. There was fear in his eyes, but also urgency. He was desperate, but not deceitful, at least not yet. Daniel finally nodded. "All right, but we proceed cautiously. We move quietly, without alerting anyone. If you betray us, Emily's life is on the line." Robert nodded solemnly. "I understand." That night, we packed a small bag with letters, photographs, and documents from the attic. Every item felt like a lifeline, a piece of a puzzle that could either protect me or mark me as a target. As we stepped outside, the street was empty, but the sense of being watched was suffocating. Shadows shifted near the trees, and the faint glow of headlights lingered far down the road. Someone was following. Daniel gestured for us to move quickly. "Keep your head down. Stick to the plan. This is just the beginning. Once we get to Robert's safe house, we can start connecting the dots, your parents' past, their allies, and the people who want you silenced." I gripped the photograph of my parents, a surge of both fear and determination coursing through me. I would not be taken off course. Not now, not ever. And as we walked into the night, the darkness felt alive, crawling with danger, but also with possibilities. My parents' story, their secret, and my own identity were all intertwined, waiting to be uncovered. For the first time, I felt the weight of responsibility, but also the power. I was no longer a passive observer in my own life. I had begun the journey to uncover the truth, and nothing, not threats, not fear, not the shadows following us, would stop me. Robert's safe house was a modest, nondescript home on the outskirts of town, surrounded by tall hedges and the kind of trees that kept prying eyes at bay. The moment we stepped inside, the air felt heavier, charged with tension. It smelled faintly of old books and coffee, an attempt at normalcy in a house that had seen far too much secrecy. Daniel closed the door behind us and glanced at me. "Stay alert. Even here, we're not completely safe. Whoever took your parents, they know more than we do. They've been planning for years." Robert led us to a small study, walls lined with shelves crammed with files, photographs, and maps. "Your parents left breadcrumbs," he said, gesturing toward the piles of documents. "Each one connects to someone who knew the truth, or tried to hide it. Our job is to follow them, piece by piece, until we find the people responsible." I sank into a chair, clutching a photograph of my parents smiling at me when I was a toddler. And if we find them? I asked, voice trembling. Will it be too late? Daniel's eyes met mine. We don't know yet, but if we don't try, it will definitely be too late. Robert pulled out a folder marked with my parents' initials. Inside were notes, sketches, and names, some familiar, some completely unknown. One name kept repeating, Evelyn Parker. This woman, Robert said, pointing at the notes, was your parents' closest friend and their confidant. She disappeared around the same time your parents were taken. People assumed she left town, but she was investigating. She might have answers. I leaned closer, heart hammering. Where do we start looking for her? Daniel shook his head. We have to be careful. Whoever took your parents may have followed her too. She could be in danger. But we start with her last known location, an old cabin in the woods about 2 hours from here. She kept low, trusted no one. That's our best lead. Robert handed me a small, folded map with coordinates. This is as much as your parents left. The rest is on you to figure out. And remember, his voice dropped, almost a whisper, the people who did this, they have eyes everywhere. They'll know you're moving. You can't underestimate them. We spent the rest of the day planning. Each detail mattered. The route, the timing, the possibility of surveillance. The tension was suffocating, but it also gave me clarity. I had spent so long in a world where I was unaware, passive, pretending everything was normal. Now, every step I took mattered. As night fell, I stared out the window at the darkened street. Shadows danced under the streetlights, and I could almost feel them. The people who had taken my parents, watching, waiting. Daniel approached me, placing a hand on my shoulder. Emily, you're ready for this. Fear is normal, but courage is acting even when you're afraid. You're stronger than you think. I swallowed hard, gripping the photograph of my parents. I have to find Evelyn Parker, I said. If she's still alive, she'll know what happened. She's the only chance we have to understand. Robert nodded. And if she isn't, we follow the next breadcrumb. Your parents left a trail. It's just up to us to follow it, carefully, without alerting those who want you stopped. For the first time since that stranger appeared in my house, I felt a sense of purpose. The danger was real. The threat was close. But I would not back down. Not now. Not ever. As we prepared for the journey to Evelyn Parker's last known location, I realized that the quiet life I had once known, the normal life, was gone. In its place was a path filled with secrets, danger, and the possibility of answers. And for the first time, I was ready to chase them. The drive to Evelyn Parker's cabin was tense, every mile stretching longer than the last. Daniel kept his eyes on the rearview mirror, occasionally adjusting his grip on the wheel, as if sensing danger lurking in the trees. Robert sat beside me, map in hand, whispering coordinates to Daniel in a steady voice. Are you sure this is safe? I asked, my fingers gripping the edge of the seat. No, Daniel said honestly, but nothing about this journey is safe. The only choice we have is to stay sharp, trust each other, and move carefully. The woods grew darker as we approached, branches scraping the sides of the car like warning fingers. I shivered, not from cold, but from a growing sense that every shadow could be someone watching us, waiting. Finally, we arrived at a small clearing. Evelyn Parker's cabin was half hidden behind overgrown bushes, paint peeling, windows dusty. It looked abandoned, almost forgotten. But Daniel's expression told me otherwise. He knew better. Robert motioned for us to stay quiet. She doesn't trust anyone. We need to make contact carefully. Daniel stepped forward and knocked lightly. Evelyn Parker? He called. Silence. Then, a window creaked open. A face peered out, sharp, wary, and older than I had imagined. Her eyes were like a hawk's, scanning, measuring. Who's there? She demanded. Her voice trembled with age and tension, but her gaze never faltered. Daniel stepped forward. Emily Whitman, your parents, they trusted you. We need your help. The woman's eyes widened slightly at the name. She studied me for a long moment, as if weighing truth and danger. Then she stepped back. Inside, she whispered, opening the door. The cabin smelled of dust and old wood, with stacks of papers and folders everywhere. Evelyn motioned for us to sit. I've been expecting someone, she said quietly. But I didn't know it would be you. I looked at her, trying to process the gravity of the moment. Expecting me? How did you know? Evelyn sighed, running a hand through her gray-streaked hair. Your parents left messages, Emily. For me, for anyone who might survive this. They knew the people who wanted them gone wouldn't stop. And when I saw the letters you found. She hesitated. I knew you were in danger. Robert interjected. We need information. Who took her parents? Who wants her silenced? Evelyn's expression darkened. The same people who have been watching all along, a network of powerful people. They have influence in this town, in the banks, in law enforcement. Your parents discovered something they shouldn't have. They paid for it with their lives. And now, Emily, they will stop at nothing to make sure the truth dies with you. Fear twisted in my stomach, but anger flared too. Then we expose them, I said firmly. No matter what it takes. Evelyn studied me closely. You have your parents' courage, she said. But courage alone isn't enough. You need proof, allies, and timing. And most importantly, you must expect betrayal. Even from people you think you trust. I nodded, determination settling over me like armor. I understand, but I can't back down. Not now. Not ever. Evelyn leaned back, eyes narrowing. Then the first step is knowing who among us is still alive, and who has already been compromised. There's someone close, someone your parents trusted, who is dangerous. They've been feeding information to the wrong people. You need to be careful. Daniel and Robert exchanged a glance. We'll be careful, Daniel said. But I knew the truth. Careful might not be enough. Every shadow, every whispered step in the night, every person who claimed to help could be a threat. And for the first time, I felt the weight of being the center of a dangerous game I never asked to play. The past and present collided in that tiny cabin, and I realized this. If I wanted answers about my parents, if I wanted justice, I would have to face danger head-on. And I was ready. The next morning, the woods seemed alive with shadows, each rustling leaf or snapping twig a warning. Evelyn guided us through the back trails, avoiding the main roads, whispering directions and cautioning us at every turn. Every sense in my body was alert, hearing, seeing, even the faintest shift in the wind. This way, Evelyn said, leading us to a small clearing. In the center stood a weathered shed. He's been hiding here, she whispered. One of your parents' contacts. He knows more than anyone, but he's paranoid. Approach carefully. Daniel crouched low, hand on my shoulder. Emily, stay behind us. Watch, don't engage unless you have to. I nodded, heart pounding. My parents' lives, their secrets, their deaths, it all felt closer now. Every step brought me nearer to the answers I craved, but also nearer to the danger I had only glimpsed. A man stepped out of the shed. Older, gray-haired, but his eyes were sharp, wary. He raised his hands slightly. Who are you? He demanded, voice tense. I'm Emily Whitman, I said, my voice steady despite the fear. I need your help. My parents, they trusted you. The man froze, and for a moment, I thought he might attack. Then recognition flickered in his eyes. Emily, you're alive? He stumbled backward, nearly dropping the briefcase he carried. Yes, Daniel said firmly. We need information. Who took her parents? Who's after her? The man's hands shook as he set the briefcase down and opened it. Inside were folders, photographs, and notes. Evidence that confirmed everything we had feared. They're powerful, he whispered. They've been watching, controlling. They silenced your parents because they discovered too much. And now, he looked directly at me. They know you're close to the truth. They won't stop. Fear tightened around my chest, but anger flared hotter. Then we fight, I said. I need to know everything. I'm not afraid. The man nodded slowly. Bravery alone won't protect you. You need proof, timing, and allies you can trust. But there's someone close to you, Emily, who has betrayed your parents' trust. Be careful who you rely on. Robert and Daniel exchanged a grim glance. We'll watch, Daniel said. But we need every piece of evidence we can find now. The man opened the folders. Names, dates, transactions, correspondence. It was a tangled web of lies, corruption, and deceit. If this goes public, he said, voice low, it could bring down half the town's establishment. That's why your parents died. And that's why you're next if you're careless. I flipped through the documents, stomach twisting. Every page was proof, every name a threat. My parents had left me a legacy of secrets and danger, and I had to navigate it all, or be consumed. Suddenly, a snapping branch echoed through the trees. My pulse spiked. Daniel grabbed a nearby branch as a makeshift weapon. Robert motioned for us to hide. Shadows moved, too deliberate, too quiet. Someone was approaching. Stay calm, Daniel whispered. This is why we move carefully. They've been watching every lead, every contact. And now, his voice dropped. They know we're here. The man from the shed hissed through clenched teeth. Go, take what you need and leave. Don't stop for anything. I gathered the folders closest to me, clutching them like a lifeline. Every step back toward the edge of the clearing was measured, each shadow a potential threat. I realized then how fragile our advantage was, and how close we were to being cornered. As we emerged from the trees and returned to the hidden path, I felt a surge of determination. Fear was part of this now, but it would not control me. I had seen the faces of those who betrayed my parents. I had touched the evidence they left behind. And I knew, whatever came next, I would face it head on. Because my parents' story was not over. And neither was mine. Back at the safe house, tension hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. We spread the evidence across the table, photographs, letters, notes, and files. Each piece revealed a thread in the web of betrayal, and each thread led to someone closer to me than I had realized. Evelyn leaned over the table, her finger tracing a series of names. One of these people, she said, voice low, was your parents' closest friend. They were the one who fed information to the wrong people. Someone you trusted, or thought you could trust. My stomach dropped. Who? I whispered, scanning the list. Robert spoke cautiously. It's Gregory Hayes. He worked with your parents for years. At first, he seemed loyal, but records show he's been communicating with the people who took your parents. He knows everything, and he's been hiding in plain sight. Daniel's jaw tightened. We need to act. If he realizes you're alive and investigating, Emily, he could try to stop you, or worse. I clenched my fists, a surge of anger mingling with fear. Then we confront him. We need the truth, and we need it now. No more hiding. Evelyn shook her head. Careful. Confronting him directly could be dangerous. He's cunning and well-connected. You need leverage. I looked at the folders and photographs spread across the table. Proof. That was our leverage. My parents had left it behind, and now it was my weapon. Daniel nodded. We'll plan carefully. First, we gather everything that ties him to the betrayal. Then, we force him to reveal what he knows about your parents and why they were taken. The hours passed in tense preparation. Maps, notes, photographs, every piece of evidence was double-checked, catalogued, and memorized. Evelyn briefed us on potential allies, people who had remained loyal to my parents and could help us navigate the danger ahead. As night fell, we made our move. The city streets were quiet, but every shadow felt like an enemy. I gripped the folder with Gregory Hayes' correspondence and photographs, my lifeline and my weapon. We arrived at a small apartment on the outskirts of town. Daniel and Robert took positions outside while I approached the door, heart hammering. This was the moment. The confrontation that could answer the questions haunting me for months. I knocked. Silence. Then the door opened, and there he was, Gregory Hayes. The man who had smiled, laughed, and pretended loyalty while betraying my parents. His eyes widened when he saw me. Emily? His voice was strained, a mixture of recognition and fear. Yes, Gregory, I said, my voice steady, though my hands shook. Do you know why I'm here? He swallowed, taking a step back. I don't know what you mean. I held up the folder. This proves everything. The lies, the betrayal, your involvement with the people who took my parents. You can deny it all you want, but the truth is here. And now, it's time to talk. Gregory's face paled. Panic flickered in his eyes. You don't understand, they'll come after you if I. Stop, I snapped. I don't care who comes after me. I want the truth. Why did you betray them? Why did you let them die? He faltered, the weight of guilt and fear cracking his composed exterior. I didn't have a choice. They threatened me. My family. I had to protect them. I never wanted your parents harmed, but. His voice broke. I had no power to stop it. The truth hit me like a punch. Betrayal wasn't always black and white. People made impossible choices, and the world my parents had tried to protect me from was far more dangerous than I'd imagined. I clenched my jaw, fighting tears and anger. You had a choice, Gregory. You could have helped them, saved me. Instead, you hid in the shadows. And now, you're going to help me make it right. Gregory hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay, I'll tell you everything. But Emily, this will change everything you thought you knew. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I'm ready. I've been ready for months. And in that moment, the final pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The web of secrets, lies, and betrayals was unraveling. The people who had destroyed my family, and tried to erase me, were about to face the truth. The night was thick with tension as we prepared to confront the people who had destroyed my family. Gregory Hayes led us through the last of the connections, revealing the web of corruption, threats, and manipulation that had silenced my parents. Every name, every detail he provided brought the picture into sharper focus, and the danger closer. "This is it," Daniel whispered, checking the final documents. "Once we move forward, there's no turning back." I nodded, gripping the folder filled with evidence. Fear bubbled beneath my determination, but I pushed it down. I had come too far to stop now. My parents' lives, their legacy, depended on me seeing this through. We arrived at a secluded warehouse, the supposed meeting place for the remaining conspirators. Shadows stretched across the walls, and I could feel eyes on us even before we stepped inside. Gregory led the way, his voice low. "They don't know we're coming. If we're careful, we can catch them before they flee or destroy the evidence." The warehouse smelled of dust and old machinery. Crates and boxes were stacked high, providing perfect hiding places. Daniel signaled for us to spread out quietly. My pulse pounded, but I kept my focus, scanning every corner. Then I saw them, 3 figures moving near the center, speaking in hushed tones. Their faces were partially obscured, but I recognized the leader immediately. The person who had orchestrated my parents' deaths, who had tried to erase every trace of their work, Richard Malcolm. "Emily," Gregory hissed, "he's the one. The rest follow his orders." I took a deep breath, stepping forward. "Richard Malcolm," I shouted, my voice echoing through the warehouse. The men froze, turning toward me. Shock flashed across their faces. "Who?" one started, but I raised the folder. "I have proof. Every transaction, every lie, every plan you made to destroy my family. It ends tonight." Richard's face twisted with anger and panic. "You don't understand." "I understand enough," I interrupted. "You silenced my parents, you tried to erase me, and you underestimated me. But now, the truth is here. And it's going public." Daniel and Robert moved swiftly, securing exits and making sure no one could escape. The conspirators tried to reach for weapons, but the evidence, and the law, was on our side. The documents in my hands, combined with Gregory's testimony, were enough to bring the entire network down. Richard lunged toward me, but Daniel intercepted him, holding him back as I pressed forward. "You won't get away this time," I said, my voice steady. Rage and justice fused into one. Within minutes, authorities arrived, alerted by Robert's careful pre-arrangements. Officers moved in, securing the conspirators and confiscating evidence. For the first time in months, the weight pressing on my chest lifted slightly. My parents' deaths, the lies, the danger, it was finally being addressed. As the night drew to a close, I stood outside the warehouse, clutching the photograph of my parents. Tears ran down my cheeks, but they were no longer just for grief, they were for strength, for courage, and for the knowledge that their fight had not been in vain. Evelyn approached me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You did it, Emily. You faced danger, betrayal, and fear, and you came out standing. Your parents would be proud." I looked at Daniel and Robert, my allies, my protectors. "We did it," I said quietly. "Together." The wind rustled through the trees as dawn broke over the city. The world felt different, raw, and real. I had uncovered the secrets of my past, faced the people who sought to destroy me, and claimed my parents' truth. But more importantly, I had discovered my own strength. My life would never be the same. The quiet days were gone forever. But in their place was something far more powerful: knowledge, courage, and the unwavering determination to live my life on my own terms. And for the first time since that stranger appeared in my house, I felt a glimmer of peace. The story wasn't just about what had been taken, it was about what I had found: myself.